Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. I read about so many toxic mother in laws, and I have to admit that so many of them share the same traits. I had to share what's going on with my mother in law. So, my mother in law has a zero tolerance level and wants to control everything she can. When I was first introduced to her, she told me that she had never believed in relationships and thought that the only relationship was marriage. I was startled and only said that she seemed old school. Well, I could tell that she did not like me, or let's say that she did not like that her son was dating. As I started seeing my husband's family after that, I came to know that my sister in law's marriage was not going well. She was staying at my mother in law's place back then, and everyone was worried for her. My mother in law would keep saying that she already knew that my sister in law's husband was not good and that she should divorce him right away, while my sister in law wanted to give her husband a chance. We had already moved in together, so we were not directly involved in the matter. Also, I was a new member of the family, so I kept a distance. My mother in law's loud and angry behavior affected my sister in law's mental health, so I told her that she could move into our house until her matter was resolved. When my sister in law moved in with us, she, of course, got a space and peace of mind to think about what she actually wanted. She was in contact with her husband and things were getting settled. We invited her husband to dinner as we got an idea that the only problem between them was my mother in law's interference. My mother in law somehow learned about the dinner and showed up at our place when my sister in law's husband had already arrived. She created a scene there and yelled that he was a cheater and he was going to throw my sister in law out of his house. I told her to get out, and of course, she turned her weapons to me. She started calling me names and asked me who I was to interfere with their personal matter. I told her that it was my sister in law's and her husband's matter, and even if she could not interfere. My husband told her that she had to leave. My sister in law and her husband reconciled, and she moved back with him. After that, my mother in law faked some screenshots and even arranged for a woman to act as my sister in law's husband's girlfriend and accused my sister in law's husband of having an extramarital affair. My sister in law knew already that her mom had some serious problems with her husband, so she did not react at all, and the couple moved to another city to get rid of the drama my mother in law would create. That was just the start of problems for me. My mother in law blamed me for brainwashing my sister in law against her and telling her that my mother in law was the only problem in their relationship, which was true. She told my husband that as I was already breaking up their family, he should dump me and find someone better. My husband told her that as my sister in law had moved away, that did not mean that she could create problems between us after them. One day, my mother in law showed up at our place and was in a very good mood. I asked her if she would like tea and then went to the kitchen to prepare some snacks. My husband returned from an errand meanwhile, and she was so excited to see him. I was a bit curious to know what was going on, so I went back to the lounge. She announced that she had brought photos of eligible women for my husband to marry. I was so stunned that I could not speak for a few minutes. My husband asked my mother in law if she had lost her mind because he already had a woman and was not looking for any. She said that I was just a girlfriend who was going to run away after spending a good time with him, so he should find someone to get married to and settle down. My husband asked her if she was still living in the Stone Age or something, and then told her that she was leaving right away. We got married after dating for almost a year, and my mother in law could not digest that. She would say that her son had married a slut and that she never knew he was that unlucky. When I got pregnant and she came to know about that, she had gone crazy. She acted like she was excited for us and was eagerly waiting for a grandchild, but would then pass toxic remarks. She was once at our place and asked me if I had slept with men before my husband and how many relationships I had because I looked that type of woman to her. She then once asked if I was sure that it was my husband's baby and not my boyfriend. I told everything to my husband, and he told my mother in law that she was not allowed in our house anymore. I have told my husband that I do not want to see my mother in law in the delivery room as my delivery is due in a week. Also, I am not letting that lady see my kid. AITA? As I had posted about my mother in law and also told you guys that I was not going to allow my mother in law in the delivery room, you guys would not believe what she did to get in the delivery room. As I was taken to the room and my husband was beside me, my mother in law told the staff that she was my mom and not my mother in law. When they told her that my mom was already inside with me, she said that my mom had lied to get inside. The staff somehow let her in, and I was not in the condition to argue or fight that woman. My mom and husband tried to get her out, but she started weeping and begging them to let her stay. The first thing my mother in law said after seeing my baby was that it was not my husband's and that I had an extramarital affair. My husband got her out of the hospital and told her that if she tried to show up again, he was going to call the cops. My mother in law kept calling my husband and sent hundreds of texts saying that she was sorry and would not do that again. It was my mother in law's birthday, and of course, she invited us, but my husband told me that he had no plan to celebrate her day at her place, as she was intolerable and should be left alone. I told him that it was a bit too rude, and as she was not coming to our place, we could simply go to hers and spend an hour or two so that she might not feel down. My sister in law was also not there, and I thought it was better for us to go to my mother in law's birthday. So on her birthday, I did not feel well and told my husband that he could go alone. My husband bought a gift for her and went to her place. When he came back, he was furious and told me that he had no plan to go, and it was I who kept pushing him. On asking what had happened, he told me that my mother in law opened his gift in front of the guests and told everyone that it was cheap. She said that she did not mind at all, as my husband was already spending way too much on someone else's child, my child. My husband came back right away and told me that he was never going to see her again. My mother in law did not stop there. She posted on Facebook that I did not attend her birthday party because I was afraid that people would guess that it was not my husband's son. She said that I could not stand her speaking the truth, so I had brainwashed her son and daughter too. She also mentioned that the gift was cheap and I had trapped her son to raise someone else's kid. We reported her on Facebook and then blocked her. My husband told me that he was going to file a report against her for defaming. My sister in law was throwing a gender reveal party, so she called us and invited us to her place. She told us not to tell my mother in law as she did not want to involve her. My sister in law had also invited my father in law, and he was also not supposed to tell my mother in law about our trip to my sister in law's place or even about her pregnancy. So, what actually happened was that my mother in law read my sister in law's text messages on my father in law's phone and created a scene. She kept weeping and said that she never imagined her kids would cut off her like that. My father in law told her that no matter what was going on, my mother in law could not go to my sister in law's place, as she was not allowed there. My father in law traveled with us to the city my sister in law was living, and on the very next day, my mother in law showed up there. My sister in law told her that she was not at all allowed at her place, and she was going to call the cops if my mother in law did not leave. My mother in law kept crying like a kid and begged my sister in law for a chance, but she did not listen. My mother in law had to leave, so we stayed there for a couple of days and then came back. My father in law told us that my mother in law was not at home, which meant that she was still in the same city as my sister in law. My father in law called my sister in law and warned her about that. My mother in law showed up at my sister in law's place after a day or two and told her that she was not going to leave until my sister in law did not forgive her. My sister in law called the cops and filed a report against her for trespassing. She tried to tell the cops that she was my sister in law's mom, but my sister in law told them that she was just a random lady and not at all her mom. This was all narrated by my sister in law, and all I could think of right now is that karma is a real bitch. NTA. It was so kind of OP to let sister in law stay at her place until she could sort out her problems. Also, OP did her best to draw a line and keep mother in law within her limits, but she was just unruly. When OP decided to attend mother in law's birthday, I knew it was not going to end well, and thanks to God, OP did not attend that party. Happy, lonely life to mother in law. NTA, the only a-hole in the story was OP's mother in law, who had no boundaries and would do anything to mess things up. Glad sister in law had moved out, as mother in law was never going to stop interfering in her life. OP, her husband, and father in law should also run away somewhere, as mother in law cannot be trusted. How can a woman ruin her kids' relationships like that? My sister, female 20, and I, female 16, have recently come into some conflict over a business trip our mom will be taking at the end of September. My older sister, for whatever reason, does not want me in the house for the first few days of our mom's trip and keeps pushing and trying to convince me to stay with a family friend of ours or my best friend's house. My issue being, it's right before school starts, and during that time I'm normally really anxious. And I wouldn't want to impose on my best friend's family that is close to the school, especially because their youngest is starting year one. I also don't want to stay with my family friend because, as much as I love them, their little ones would only stress me out, and I prefer to sleep in my own bed. My older sister and I got into a fight a few weeks ago, and we haven't brought it up since, but I really don't think I'm wrong for not wanting to leave the house I also live in. Another reason being, we have four pets, her dogs and my cats. I paid for and still pay for them as they are my cats. I trust her, but I still would prefer to not be away from my babies. She refuses to tell me why she doesn't want me in the house, but I'm suspecting there could be two reasons. One of which is because she wants alone time or because she thinks she'll need to take care of me. I told her that if she wanted alone time for those 2 to 3 days, I could just stay in my room and only come out when I need to. Not a problem for me because I'm on the second floor with my own bathroom. I also told her that if she's worried about taking care of me, that it's not a problem because I'm 16. I have a job and I'm fully capable of keeping myself alive for a few days. My mom talked to my sister, and honestly, her reasoning shocked me, but I get it now. She has apologized to me for pushing so much, and her real reason for not wanting me to be in the house is because she won't be either. I told her about the post, and she said it was all right that I shared. She's gotten into her first relationship. The reason she wasn't ready to tell us is because it's only been a month or two, and because her partner is a girl. Because it's her first, she wanted to wait and tell us so that she could get comfortable. They're planning a hiking trip with her partner, the dogs, for that weekend, which she said she was planning on telling us later, but I'm glad that she told us now. Reason for not wanting me to be in the house while she's not here is because I'm autistic. I do well on my own, but I have my moments. And I've got ADHD too. My mom prefers if I have an adult with me. The part that I'm most excited about, obviously, I'm happy my sister is happy, but with our problem solving, I get to go stay with my aunt for a few days in BC with my cats and little sister. We're being allowed to miss school for 3 days to go on a 5 day trip to Victoria over the last weekend in September, beginning of October. I haven't seen my great aunt or uncle in a while, so I'm excited for that. Oh, you're so wholesome. Your sister likely wants to have someone over to spend the night with her and doesn't want you there, so you don't snitch. She has no right to kick you out of your own house. She's an adult. If she wants to spend the night or needs space or whatever her reason is, she can move out. It makes much more sense for her to find a place to do whatever she's up to, since she's a grown up. You're definitely NTA. NTA, why can't she leave? You shouldn't have to leave your room and pets just to satisfy her. Obviously, your mum trusts you in the house without her. Your sister is up to something. And if she had a party with you gone, there's no guarantee no one would bother your cats or mess with your room. She needs to explain exactly why she doesn't want you there. My wife and I have our 5 year wedding anniversary coming up this fall. To celebrate, I booked us a trip to the same place we took our mini moon after we got married. I figured it would be a nice way for us to celebrate 5 years of marriage. She loved the idea when I told her, and we're both looking forward to it. My mother in law's birthday happens to be the week before our anniversary. My wife was telling mother in law about our anniversary trip recently, and mother in law started talking about how she always wanted to go there, but never had a chance. I guess my wife suggested that the two of them go there together for mother in law's birthday. My wife told me her plan later. Apparently, her idea is to leave with mother in law the week of her birthday before our scheduled anniversary trip. Then they would wait for me to arrive. Mother in law's trip would overlap ours by 1 to 2 days. Mother in law would leave, and my wife and I would stay the remainder of our planned trip. So essentially, my wife would be spending 7 to 10 days there, half with mother in law and half with me. When she told me her plan, I was less than infused. I told her it felt like she's hijacking our anniversary trip and turning it into a mother in law birthday gift, when I was hoping that this would be something special just for the two of us. I told her I understand mother in law wants to visit this place, but why does it have to be literally the same trip as our anniversary? Why couldn't they just go there literally any other time? She said that it just makes sense for them to overlap so that we can save a little money. But since my wife offered this as a gift to mother in law, we're paying for her trip, so we aren't saving anything. She also just assumed that I would be okay with taking care of our two kids while she and mother in law were gone. And since mother in law was supposed to watch our kids during our trip, now we need to find other childcare for them too. I told her that this all just seems too complicated and it would all be easier if we kept our anniversary trip and a mummy daughter trip separate. My wife did not take my criticism of her plan well. She claimed I was being selfish for wanting to make this trip about us. Which, yeah, it's an anniversary trip, not a family vacation. She said she wants to do something nice for mother in law for her birthday, and since she's always wanted to visit this location, it just makes sense to do it all at once. She claims I'm being a jerk for not simply agreeing with her and that I'm being selfish since mother in law would really like this. She hasn't booked anything yet for the part of the trip with her mom, but she wants to ASAP. I've still been trying to talk her out of it, but she just keeps digging her heels in that this is what she's going to do. I really, really do not want mother in law on any part of an anniversary trip, even for 1 to 2 days. I know we wouldn't be sharing a room or anything, but that's not the point. I thought this was going to be a special trip for my wife and I. Sounds like you should cancel the anniversary part of the trip, as obviously your wife is not as excited or interested in the anniversary part of the trip. Seriously? You came up with this idea as a really nice way to revisit your honeymoon. She sees it as a vacation destination. Nothing more special than that. NTA. NTA, I tell my wife this wasn't the trip I was hoping for, so she should just go with mother in law and you watch the kids to save on childcare. Then it's on your wife to figure out something special for your anniversary since she already ruined this one.